Do you understand the level of clout, Darren, that somebody could have as being the first person to buy the first item that Pearl Jam put out in 1991?
If you could prove it, yeah.
Well, guess what? That's the world we're about to go into.
That's right.
When you meet somebody in 13 years at an event, instead of going to Google or Instagram like many do now, I think people will go to public wallets and look at what they've done. And I'll be like, oh, Darren, you were fucking on this blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, people love to have street cred. They're like, I knew about Pantera first. Like for me, I was early on Notorious B.I.G., but do I really have proof? I don't, but I could. You know, when someone's like, I was early on Nirvana. Were you? Now, in 35 years, somebody who's early on something is likely gonna have some proof to it because that entity, the band, the influencer, the person, the thing, is gonna have an NFT infrastructure that's gonna prove. Do you understand the level of clout, Darren, that somebody could have as being the first person to buy the first item that Pearl Jam put out in 1991?
If you could prove it, yeah.
Well, guess what? That's the world we're about to go into.
That's right.
Irrefutably. So I think provenance is gonna be a currency that matters in an insane way. I think people are naive. I told people that online dating would be the standard in 2000. They laughed at me. I said that people would buy wine on the internet in 1995. They laughed at me. I told people that they would spend all their time on Facebook. They laughed at me. Playing mobile games, they laughed at me. Like all I do is get laughed at. And that's when I know I'm onto something. And this one is one that's making a lot of people laugh. They're like, I'll just take a screenshot. What's the difference? I'm like, everything.
Well, I was talking fine art with Sasha Bailey. He's the founder of MyBay. And he was talking about how he had experience with traditional fine art. For example, if you were to say, look at an Andy Warhol, and it was the real one, Andy Warhol, and then you had a fake sitting next to it. They are indistinguishable. You cannot tell the difference between them. You know, and that's a problem. So what do? They go by provenance. They go, okay, whose hands were, who had this piece? You know, where is the history of this piece? And again, that's where the blockchain is vastly superior as a solution.
It's not even close.
Right? Not only that, where are those Andy Warhols? They're in a vault. No one's even looking at the things.
Correct.
I go to the New York Met. I don't know if you saw that, but I posted about it. I go to the Met and I go look at a painting and I'm like, is this even the real painting? Or did they just put a replica here because they don't want the real one to get damaged?
Correct. And meanwhile, somebody changes their profile pic to a CryptoPunk and you can go check if they're the actual owner of it. You could.
You can.
You could. And then you get into the monetization of the IP. Like you look at some of the NFT standards where you're allowed to monetize something you buy up to $100,000. Like there's so much neat stuff. It's just going to be neat. That's like the word, like I've been using the word neat. Like I don't know if it brings me back to when I was—
It's a childish nostalgic thing, right?
It's neat. Yeah. It's neat. It's fucking neat.